You've probably already heard about R&R Crypto. This new story has once again tainted the world of cryptocurrencies. It didn't take long for R&R Crypto to be in all the newspapers, on the radio, and all the television channels. While it is still sad to see that journalists only talk about crypto when there is this kind of smoking gun business. As far as I know, TF1 or BFM TV didn't talk much about the Taproot update or the Lightning Network, subjects that are just as important or even more so in my opinion, but anyway, let's get back to R&R Crypto. This French association based in Dijon had been offering cryptocurrency management services for a few years. It promised very interesting returns to people who placed their funds in the association. With the help of word of mouth, R&R Crypto reached in just a few years more than 4,500 members. Everything was going well until all the members received this email from Vincent Rapiat, the founder of the association and CEO of the structure, to announce that the funds had simply disappeared. The latest estimates speak of more than 58 million euros. To date, the R&R Crypto Association has been placed in the receivership by the courts in Dijon, and the public prosecutor has taken up the case. The brigade specialized in cybercrime has already started its investigation. It will probably take several years for us to really understand what happened and for justice to be done. This dramatic event for all the people who entrusted their savings to R&R Crypto is an opportunity to remind that if you do not have the private keys of your crypto, you are not really the owner. As a famous saying goes, not your keys, not your bitcoins. We'll see in this video what that really means. Come on, let's go. R&R Crypto is unfortunately far from being the only crypto-related scam. This type of business is relatively common in the ecosystem. Thugs regularly take advantage of the naivety and ignorance of newbies to extract as much money as possible from them. It is important to understand that every time you entrust your cryptos to a third party, whether it's an individual, an association, or an exchange platform, you take the risk of losing your precious treasure. A case very similar to that of R&R Crypto, but in even greater proportions, took place a few weeks ago in South Africa, where the leaders of the Africrypt fund disappeared with a prize of $3.6 billion. If we dig a little deeper into the archives, one of the most well-known stories is that of Mt GOX platform. Between 2010 and 2014, Mt GOX was the platform on which almost all bitcoins were bought or sold. Back then, if you wanted bitcoins, you went to Mt GOX. No choice. Again, everything was going well until hackers found a flaw in the system and stole more than 700,000 bitcoins, which today would be the equivalent of a staggering $22 billion. This Mt GOX incident has had a major impact on Bitcoin. Many people thought at the time that this was the end and that Satoshi's famous invention would not survive the ordeal. And yet, Bitcoin is still here. We could cite many other examples of Bitcoin and other crypto theft, but it is very important to understand that in all these stories, it was never the Bitcoin network that was hacked. All these cases of fraud and loss of Bitcoin come either from a hack of the platform, that is, the flaw in the system, or from the dishonesty of the people in charge, but never from a flaw in the Bitcoin protocol itself. The best way to avoid getting entangled in this kind of issue is to ultimately own your cryptos and keep your own private key. But then, what do we mean by private key? Cryptocurrencies and a number of concepts related to blockchain can seem quite intimidating. The concept of private key, public key is not easy to understand. We'll try to explain it as simply as possible. Your private key is a password that allows you to use your bitcoins on the network. Not to be confused with the password you set on exchanging or trading platforms or your Gmail or Facebook password. It has nothing to do with that. A private key is a random number of 256 bits. That is to say, a number with 256 ones or zeros. It is such a large and complex number that it is hard to really grasp. An electronic wallet is used to keep this private key. It can be either a simple software installed on your computer or a small accessory that looks like a USB key in most cases. The second option is more secure because these special USB keys are designed to keep your private key protected and disconnected from the network, which makes it much more difficult to steal it. Your private key will be randomly generated when you use your e-wallet for the first time. Basically, it's like arriving in a new city and randomly choosing a mailbox. Any mailbox, the one you want. When you've made your choice, you just put the key from the mailbox in your pocket. That key is your private key, and the address on the mailbox is your public key. Anyone can send bitcoins to this address, but only you can open the mailbox. For the record, in the case of Bitcoin, there are more private keys than atoms in the universe, so don't worry, your private key will be unique. You will probably never see your private key. It will be stored directly in your e-wallet. Whenever you need it to sign a transaction, you will just have to connect or plug your wallet to your computer. You should know that your private key can always be found from a sequence of 24 words called a passphrase. This passphrase will be given to you when you initialize your electronic wallet. Even if your wallet breaks or if you lose it, you will still be able to access your bitcoins using these 24 words, so it's extremely important to keep them safe. And it's getting to the point where the crypto universe is radically different from the current paradigm. Your e-wallet doesn't hold your bitcoins, like a wallet would hold your bills or coins. Your e-wallet simply holds your private key that allows you to access your cryptos. We often imagine bitcoins as gold coins with a big B on them. Our subconsciousness attaches itself to the current model to what we know and understand, and this prevents us from really understanding how this new technology works. To really understand what it's all about, it's much more relevant to compare Bitcoin to a piece of land, a kind of digital land saved on the cloud. Think of 1 Bitcoin as 1 square meter of this land. We know that this land will be 21 million square meters. That's the amount Bitcoin is trending towards by the year 2140. For the record, we're just under 19 million today. 90% of Bitcoin has been mined, or if you prefer, 90% of the land has been discovered. But let's get back to this private key thing. A private key gives a right to the individual who holds it to use the land attached to it as he or she sees fit, a sort of title deed if you will. In a transaction from person A to person B, the bitcoins don't really move. The only thing that changes hands is the deed of those bitcoins, and all 100% digitally, and without any third parties. Let's take an example. I own 3 bitcoins, i.e. 3 square meters of bitcoin land. This means that these 3 bitcoins can be used with my private key and my private key alone. Now let's say I want to transmit 1 bitcoin to Richard, so I'll put Richard's public key, which he gave me, in the transaction, and sign with my private key. Since I have 3 bitcoins, the protocol does allow me to use 1 bitcoin and give it to Richard. Richard now has 1 bitcoin and I have 2 left. If Richard then wants to transmit his Bitcoin, which he just received, to Ty Bud, for example, he will use Ty Bud's public key and sign the transaction with his own private key, and so on. Ty Bud can now use this Bitcoin as he wants with his private key. In our little example, the Bitcoin in question changed hands twice, but never really moved. It is the ownership of this Bitcoin that has been changed in the distributed ledger, also called blockchain. At this point, you can pass on your public key without any problem. It is even necessary to carry out a transaction, but you should never disclose your private key. You have to understand that as soon as you have your private key, you are really in control of your bitcoins. It's a bit like having your money under your mattress or your gold buried in the garden. Unless you take control of your private key, no one will ever be able to seize your bitcoins or stop a transaction you decide to make. However, when you leave your bitcoins or other crypto on an exchange or a trading platform, you are dependent on the company in question. The platform acts as an intermediary between you and the Bitcoin network. Ultimately, you are entrusting them with your private key, or, to use a land example, you are entrusting them with your title deeds. If you want to take back control of your bitcoins, nothing could be easier. You just have to set up your own electronic wallet. That is to say, install a small software on your computer, or even better, acquire a ledger or Trezor key, and then ask the exchange platform where your bitcoins are located to transfer your tokens to your new public address. Realize that for the first time in human history, a technology allows any individual to keep their wealth and assets safe and completely autonomous. The individual no longer needs a central entity like a bank or a government to protect their wealth. Bitcoin, and especially its cryptography system, provides anyone with a strong and unyielding shield that can withstand any attack, including from authoritarian governments, for example. Of course, criminals will always find a way to achieve their goals. Torture, persecution, imprisonment will always be a reality, but the task is now much more complicated. The only way to get rid of your bitcoins is, first, to know that you have them, not so easy, and second, to know your private key. Imagine, for example, the usefulness of this new technology for migrants fleeing their countries in times of war or for people living in totalitarian regimes. This digital gold stored in the cloud can be accessed from anywhere on the planet with a simple internet connection. This is the potential of Bitcoin. Now you understand why it is essential to grasp the concept of a private key, which is fundamentally different from your PIN code or email password. If you don't own your keys yourself, you don't really own your Bitcoins. You trust a third party. This is at your own risk, and our crypto customers learned this lesson the hard way. When you put your cryptos on platforms promising you a few % return, you have to think hard about whether it's worth it. Bitcoin has, on average, more than tripled every year for the past 10 years. Looking at the numbers, Bitcoin is probably one of the best investments you could have made in the past 10 years, ahead of Netflix or Tesla. If Bitcoin continues like this, is it really worth investing these Bitcoins to make between 3 to 6 more? You decide. In any case, in my opinion, it is necessary to think about it and consider the risk. I would be very curious to know what you think. Feel free to share your points of view in the comments. On that note, see you soon for new videos. Ciao.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like my videos, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of the next episode. And if you want to invest in the stock market over the long term or diversify your financial portfolio, I'm offering you an analysis of the 8 European star stocks to have. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.